If you've ever wondered how ordinary families survived the brutal winters of the 1940s when coal ran out, oil was rationed, and blackouts hit without warning, here's the truth. Most history books skip. They didn't wait for rescue. They built their own quiet, unstoppable heating systems using scrap pipes, old radiators, and the raw laws of physics. The result was so effective that entire homes stayed warm without a single pump or watt of electricity. And if that kind of frontier ingenuity fires you up, you'll want to hit subscribe to Prepper's Survival Blueprint, because this is where forgotten survival engineering comes back to life. In the 1940s, nobody had the luxury of convenience. When the grid went down, it stayed down. When fuel ran short, it stayed short. But cold doesn't negotiate, so people turned to a method older than electric pumps, older than central heating, older than the modern home itself. They used gravity. Hot water rises, cold water sinks. Nature takes care of the circulation if you give it a pathway. Engineers today call it thermosiphon flow, but wartime families didn't need fancy terms. They just knew that if you placed your stove or boiler at the lowest point and your radiator higher up, heat would climb, cool slightly, then fall back down on its own. No pump, no switch, no mechanical failure. A heating loop powered entirely by physics. That's the whole secret, and it kept rooms warm while the world outside froze. Wartime repair manuals from the era show the same pattern. People scavenged whatever they could find. Copper pipes from demolished buildings, thick iron radiators salvaged from schools and factories. Everything was repurposed. Everything mattered. And the key to making the system run wasn't expensive equipment. It was height. Put the stove low. Keep the pipes rising in a gentle slope. Place radiators high enough to pull the heat up through the loop. If the pipes sagged even a little, air pockets formed and the whole system stalled. But with careful placement and a steady upward angle, families created heating loops that ran silently for hours. Often, a small wood or coal stove, fitted with a simple water jacket, served as the powerhouse. Light the fire, warm the water, and gravity did the rest. Winter may have been cruel, but gravity was dependable. Even the strongest thermosiphon system creates gentle, steady warmth, not the aggressive blast you get from a modern furnace. So, wartime families developed their own strategies that preppers today can still learn from. They insulated every water line they could. They used thicker radiators that stored and released heat longer. They positioned radiators under windows, knowing cold drafts would meet rising warm air and, well, neutralize each other. And most importantly, they heated smart. Instead of trying to warm the entire house, many households created hot zones, 2 or 3 rooms connected to a single heating loop. Kitchens, bedrooms, workrooms, areas that mattered, areas where life continued despite shortages. The results were astonishing. Families cut fuel use dramatically while staying warm enough to function, sleep, and survive. Some even kept their gravity systems long after the war, not out of necessity, but because the method worked that well. The beauty of a thermosiphon system is that it doesn't age. It doesn't care what decade it is. The laws of physics work just as well today as they did in 1943, and recreating the system isn't complicated. You place a wood stove or even a small boiler in a basement or a lower room. You install a water jacket or heating coil. A copper line rises at a gentle slope to radiators on the floor above. Another line returns downward. The loop stays open to release pressure, usually through a small header tank or vent pipe. Insulate the pipes. Keep the slopes clean. And when the fire burns, the heat moves on its own. This is resilience. Not theoretical resilience, real resilience. The kind pioneers used. The kind wartime families relied on. The kind that keeps you warm when everything else quits. So, picture a two-room cabin after a massive winter storm knocks out the grid. The lights are dead. The batteries are low. The solar panels are buried under snow. Most modern systems would fail you, but a thermosiphon loop, it doesn't blink. The stove heats the jacket. The hot water climbs to the loft radiator. The cooler water sinks back down. No pumps, no electronics, no noise, just natural circulation. Just heat moving because heat wants to move. A homeowner could stretch limited wood supplies for days, maybe weeks, while staying warm enough to conserve energy and plan their next steps. This isn't theory. This is history speaking. Even homes with solar power and high-end battery banks can hit a wall during long, cloudy stretches. That's why many off-grid builders are bringing back thermosiphon loops paired with insulated storage tanks. The tanks absorb heat all day. The radiators release it slowly at night. The system barely touches the battery reserves. It's a quiet, low-tech backbone that steps in when technology steps out. And that's the real genius of the 1940s radiators. They weren't built for convenience, they were built for survival. They didn't fail when the grid failed. They didn't freeze when lines stopped flowing. They didn't rely on pumps that burned out. They simply worked. Our modern world is more fragile than it looks. Storms are stronger, grids are older, supply chains break easier, and while most people panic when the power flickers, those who understand systems like this don't, because they're not relying on luck. They're relying on physics. That's why wartime households trusted this method. That's why homesteaders still use it. And that's why Prepper's survival blueprint brings it back. So you don't just know history, you can use history. When old knowledge becomes your modern advantage, you're not just prepared, you're dangerous in the best possible way. If this episode gave you a new tool for your off-grid or emergency playbook, hit subscribe and share this with someone who's serious about resilience. Keep these long-lost survival skills alive, and together we'll rebuild the forgotten toolbox of real self-reliance.